Yeah,
It's raw.
he's actually the video engineer.
Oh.
He's not an audio engineer, but he's
He's doing audio and video now.
But he's played music. He has experience.
He's got a lot of experience. He has experience being. He actually technically has experience being a successful internet musician. Welcome back to Black Bolt Podcast. Today we have Robert, who is a audio engineer, a vocalist and guitarist for 3 bands. Is it?
Yeah.
And friend of Ace Troy is how we met him. But we need some more musical artists on the show. So figured why not have you come on? It sounds like you have a lot of experience that Nick and I, both myself, can identify with. And we want to hear your story.
Nice. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So
wait, okay. So you have the names of your bands. Read them off.
So the oldest running band I've been in for like 12, 13 years now is Faithless Saints. I started that with one of my best friends I grew up with, Eric Benton. We used to be in a band in high school called 36 Drive. We were together for like 6 years. So that was like the continuation of that. That's kind of been on a little bit of a hiatus for the last few years because people get married and having kids and all that stuff.
How dare they?
I know, right?
Ridiculous.
But so then after that kind of hiatus a little bit, I started a band called Sorry Not Sorry with Johnny from Second Best, which is another local band we play with a lot that's been together for like 16 years. And then I started another band with Jay Crash, Kevin Hudson, and Ian Jackson, all from bigger name bands and well-known bands in the city. And we started Ground Score, which is the other band. So Faithless Saints, Sorry Not Sorry, and Ground Score.
Favorite one? No takebacks.
Ooh, I don't know. I'll make some people mad if I start saying which one's my fave. So they're all important to me.
And you play guitar, you do vocals, and now you run your own studio, recording studio.
And I recorded all of our records. So.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
So you had a name. What was the one? Icarius. No, I'm saying it wrong.
What? Oh, Irican Productions. So
yeah.
so the studio is called Irican Productions, and it's called that because I couldn't think of a name when I was trying to name it. And growing up, my parents used to joke and call me their little Irican because I'm half Irish and half Puerto Rican.
Right.
So I couldn't think of a name, and so I was like, my dad used to call me his little Irican. I was like, oh my god, that's perfect. No one will have that, and so I just became Irican Productions because it's pretty much what I've been doing since I. Got my bachelor's degree and all this. So
that's dope. And Robert primed us right before the podcast and said it's Irican. I know you guys are going to ask me. It's Irican Productions. That's how you say it, Irican. And then Alex was like, "You have a name." It's what?
It's all right.
Yeah, I really butchered that. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
No, it's no, that's great. It's awesome. It's great. I love when people pull from their personal life to get those names. I mean, it's the best way to get something that no one else already has. And I feel like when you're trying to do something in the music business, particularly coming up with a name that no one's come up with before,
especially a record label, they're all cliche and
it's
terrible.
Virtually impossible.
Any business, because you usually want a shorter name, but there's less like combinations of letters that form into words that have not already been trademarked and shit.
Yeah.
Like they're all taken.
What you need to do is you need to take 3 letters and just blend them together so they don't even form a word. And it's Productions.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
There's
well, that's what they're just misspelling
Ampersand.
Everything now, so.
Right, yeah, they spell things craft with a K.
Yeah, or like Revivers, R-I-V-I-R.
5 R's.
Yeah.
Revers, yeah.
Fiverr, the website, does the same thing. Just add the extra R.
Stupid.
I mean, what else are you going to do, though? People are being painted into a corner, with 26 letters.
Yeah,
I guess. And
yeah, actually, I think there's like 2 other ground scores that are not nearly as active as we are, and so we're like kind of like, oh shit. So we're like, we need to get our state copyright, and then we need to get our national copyright, and then they'll all have to legally change their name. But I don't know if we can afford that yet.
Yeah. So what was the transition point from being when you started your studio? Like, how did that happen? Why did that happen? And how's it been going for you?
Well, I got my bachelor's degree from Expression College for Digital Arts in Emeryville, California.
Just digital arts. What does that entail?
It's the degree is technically bachelor's degree in applied science and sound arts. But basically, I went through the music program, which is like post-production, live sound, and studio recording. I kind of excelled on the studio recording aspect. So, and then when I was finishing school, I realized I couldn't afford to live in the Bay Area anymore. And so I had a bunch of friends and band members who were moving to Portland or were already like living up here.
What year is this?
This is 2008.
Okay.
And so I ended up moving up here in 2008 and I got a job at a bunch of different clubs around town. I worked at the Ash Street for a while doing sound as well as doing door. So that was kind of like my my footsteps into the city. And I moved in with Johnny from Second Best, and he's been in, the city and in bands forever. So that was kind of my introduction, but then no studios were hiring anyone. It was all run by one or two people. Nobody was going to pay anybody. The live sound gigs were usually shitty bands on shitty gear half the time. You don't really get to control that aspect of it. So, and I was just friends with so many bands, so I just started offering all my friends free recording. It's like, hey, I'll do your record. Hey, I'll do your record. Hey, come in and, and so I just did all my friends' bands' records for free or for cheap for like the first 3-4 years. And then slowly started charging a little bit more, and kind of did that. And I was bartending at the Tin Shed for the last decade, as well as doing that. And actually, August, I finally quit that.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But yeah,
it seems like musicians are the ones I feel like they struggle the most financially, and I guess it kind of makes sense because. Like there's one source of income for a group of people, and they always have to split it up. Like, how do you think they work around that best?
I mean, I don't know. It's just totally a nightmare because all the gear is so expensive, and then nobody wants to pay you, and no one feels. For some reason, people don't feel like they need to pay musicians, which is weird.
Right, they totally take
it's
advantage.
It's just the way the economy is, and just entertainment is set up in general. Unless you're like a really well-known artist that has a bunch of companies backing you, and it's hard to actually get paid for doing what you do. What's funny is I think is all of a sudden, like, have you heard the term lost leader? Like in a supermarket, things that break, or just the things that vegetables that just go rotten. It's just like what worked into the economics of it. Music. The sale of our music is now the lost leader. Is now we don't make money from that. We make money from every other means besides the sale of our music.
Yeah, you came in with CDs and cassettes, and Ben kind of made a point. He's like, yeah, it's gonna be hard to pull from this because I don't have much hardware.
I'll send you the files,
but like,
because that's how this is gonna work.
Yeah,
I brought those to actually kind of show how ridiculous it is.
Right,
actually,
yeah.
That's why I even brought the download card.
Yeah,
because I just thought
I
just wanted to like show the whole realm of how bands are like, well, I don't know what to fucking do when we release something. Like,
yeah, it's a nightmare. I mean, you're ultimately like art. It's sad because so much of art, especially music, and this started happening, I feel like, with it followed the Silicon Valley explosion, but music was just like, oh, music is for advertising. That's what it's for. It's a way to advertise. Period. And that's kind of what it has become now. That's really what it is, with a few exceptions. People like really lyrically heavy music like hip hop and stuff like that. They'll be more willing to pay for that. But then again, that's like poetry on top of it. It's not just the music. And then maybe like classical musicians because of the specialty to play that kind of stuff. People pay for that shit. And like nothing else, like everything else is an advertisement. Even classical music's obviously an advertisement, and hip hop too.
It's like free music comes with a t-shirt you pay $15 for. Is what it's like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's what it is not what you're even paying for.
Well, people are wanting it seems like everything that's sold today is based around experience. And of course the live shows is the part of the experience, and the merch too, I guess. But that's just what's happened. It's weird. You can't buy music anymore. I mean, what are your thoughts on music sharing platforms?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to have an opinion anymore. I mean, it needs to get out there. I'm stoked that like having digital distribution and having all these music platforms for people to listen to it means anybody anywhere can listen to my music. And so having that is great. But and having all this set up, I mean, really, unless you're really pulling an audience regularly, I mean, you're just trickling in pennies. You know what I mean? And so you just have to be versatile, but that's why I run a studio. That's why I play in 3 bands. That's why I'm like, help other bands with different projects, And so it's just you kind of got to do everything. It's just like I work in the scene, I guess.
If you were doing it for purely financial reasons, would you change your approach?
If I was doing it for, I'm trying to do it for financial reasons and make a living off it, and I am barely.
Do you? But you were telling me earlier. I can't remember if you said it on here or not. But you were telling me earlier that you pick and choose the bands that you like to work with for the most part. Oh yeah, right?
No, I ultimately get to pick and choose. So if there's a band I really don't like, I don't have to work with them. But at the same time, if they're going to be paying me, and then I have to weigh out. I was like, is it worth them paying me and dealing with them for this, that, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but ultimately, I get the choice. It's not like someone else is like, you have to record this band. I'm the one who gets to determine whether.
Yeah, so it's not just a pure money thing for you.
No, I say no to plenty of people. Because some people, I've actually there's bands I won't work with anymore because they've burnt the bridge with me.
That's just smart. I think.
So.
Yeah, I feel like if you hate working with someone so much, or they're just such a bad vibe, like the money doesn't matter. I feel like the long term is going to be so much worse.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You know, like you're going down the wrong career path. So like maybe you got a bunch of money now, but you probably could have gotten that same money later and been happier. I don't know.
No, I think
similar.
People have learning experiences with that. I think they'll work with a client one time and they'll walk away saying, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
Like that was not worth.
How can you not have that experience? You know, I feel like unless you have a mentor who's already like well connected and guiding you, like, oh, don't work with them. Like,
even still, like the mentors will say, do the projects that you want to do, otherwise you'll hate it.
You want to enjoy what we're doing. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, it's not going to come out well. Ultimately, I'm not going to pick a project that I'm not really enjoying because I probably won't produce something that I'm not proud of because I'm not enjoying it.
You won't be into it.
Yeah.
And you'll slack on it and it'll just be shit for everybody.
Yeah. The projects I love, I do way better on because I'm excited. I'm I know. I love tattooing. I would rather have less instruction for the tattoo artists and be like, these are some of my ideas. What do you want to do that will be fun for you? I want you to enjoy putting this on me.
Right.
And so I kind of,
it's a good approach, man.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can take note from that. All businesses, even when you're just going to a creative, if you go up to them with too many restrictions and you're looking for creative, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You got to kind of let them spread their wings a little bit and kind of do what they're good at.
Well, just like with me, is like I don't want to start quite getting into telling the guitar players and bass players exactly what they're playing. I'm supposed to be looking at I'm miking them as an instrument. Their whole thing is an instrument.
They bring something to the table.
And so I have to respect what they're playing. And I can make little suggestions, but ultimately I'm supposed to preserve what they're bringing to the table. And my art is the frame around it and the presentation of it, and their art is the playing of that.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
That's cool. And if you don't try to control stuff too much, you have a lot of happy accidents and
you get beautiful things. Yeah.
More creative flow, just kind of opening the
like I was
channel
recording my friend's band Skulk this last weekend, and at first we were kind of setting up like a pre-production where I'm just kind of like recording their practice, but it was sounding so good. I threw up a few extra mics and tried to treat it like I was just recording the practice room as like a record, as like an entity. And it came out so good and so heavy. I was like, Ryan, we should just keep tracking on this for the rest of the day and try to turn this into a record because this sounds killer.
That's great.
And so we just hammered at it for the rest of the day. And it was a totally new way of setting it up, a whole new approach on recording, but it made the band more comfortable to do it that way, to have it all live, have it all bleeding into the room. And I just treated the room as the musical instrument.
Yeah.
You know, mic'd up different elements of it. But I would never have done that if I wouldn't have taken the time to like deal with the band and be like, how are they comfortable? How do they want it to sound? How do they want to perform it? Instead of focusing, making them perform it the way I want to in my little,
What would you say makes a good environment for a band to record good music?
They should be comfortable and happy, and they can't be stressed.
Yeah.
And they can't be looking at the clock too much. That's the problem when you charge by the hours. They're all like, we have to come in and
hustle through. Go. Yeah.
That's why it's like, I just say, be as practiced as you can be so that when you're there, you're just enjoying playing the songs with your friends. That's the biggest thing. You can do that. It's probably going to sound pretty good.
What's your favorite part of the production process? Like what makes you the happiest?
I love, the reason I do studio recording and not post-production and not live sound is because I get to work really closely with the band and for a longer period of time, and I actually get to shape the sound of their art that is then the definitive version of that song for them.
So you don't really do post-production much, or you do?
I do. I'll do stuff for like music videos and stuff like that.
Okay.
Or if someone needs something just cleaned up for a small project. But
do you send your tracks off to a mixer, or
I mix everything?
You mix
all
everything.
My projects, but I usually tell the bands to have someone master
it. Okay,
it's just always good to have someone master it. You want a
separate
set of ears that is not involved in the project at all to do the last few things.
Yeah.
So I've had clients who were like, "Oh, will you master it?" And I was like, "I really don't want to." And I kept sending them all these people, and they're like, "Well, we really want you to do it. We really want." And I was like, "I really don't want to." And they made me do it. And I was like, "All right, well, you're making me do this, and I'll try and I'll do my best."
You mean your own mix?
Master. I mixed it.
That's what I'm saying. Right. You're mastering
but
your
I didn't
own
really
mix.
have the nicest gear to master on, and also just because I'd already mixed it, I'd spent so much time with it, and it came out okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But I still listen to that, and I'm like, someone else should just master just to have that third perspective. I think it came out great, but it's just like...
No, the third perspective's huge.
Yeah.
Do you ever master other people's stuff, though?
I haven't really been asked to master someone else's stuff.
Gotcha.
I would if I had better mastering gear. My gear is mainly set up for tracking and mixing. It's mainly like the quality. But I mean, some of those, compressors and EQs for, mastering are like $6, $7, $8
No, they're more than that.
They're
more than that. Yeah. A lot of them.
There's some that are like $10,000, but I mean, just like even low end stuff is. So I mean, eventually one day I'd love to have once my collection of gear has grown and is where it needs to be, then I can start taking on mastering projects. But
I think most people do a combo anyways these days of digital and analog mastering. So
that's the way to do it, is to like have it all dumped onto tape and then back onto digital.
Yeah.
It's because it's easier to edit, digitally, but then you want the kind of the harmonic distortion of the tape.
Right. You want the harmonic distortion. A lot of those compressors are really good. But digitally, you can just do all that crazy precision stuff that you can't really do with like the analog stuff. Like if you just want to like almost re-level the song, and remix.
Well, that's
the
what
song.
mastering's doing, is limiting the overall level of the song. That's pretty much what a mastering engineer is doing.
For sure. But I mean, even like, because so many mastering engineers will just go in and literally automate the level of the track before it hits any compression. Or anything, just so that it hits just that kind of stuff. Like it's just so much easier to do digitally.
Any of that's funner to do digitally. I remember in school we did one session where we actually had to learn how to do tape editing.
Oh God,
splicing.
Oh God, yeah.
I don't know how people ever did
Dude,
that.
no, I know.
That's like so much more labor intensive and insane.
Yeah.
Oh
when I heard about that, I was like, I just don't think I could ever do that. I don't think I could ever do anything that doesn't have 100 tracks on one screen. All right, just scroll through these. Sweet. Thanks, computer.
Like we were doing that.
What?
We were doing that for that little ad we just did. There were so many audio tracks, and
there was not fucking I think a maximum of 12, and he was starting to lose his shit.
No. For a little 30-second clip, because there's not a lot of like videos that we'll make where we'll do our own sound effects and bring in there were just like 12 audio tracks for like a little tiny bit. And now that could be common for some people. It's not the most common here, but you were doing it, you were taking charge of it, and I was like, Jesus Christ, so many audio tracks. And then you were bringing in all these different compressors and stuff that are like built into the program we're using, and I'm like, I don't even know half this stuff.
I'm just trying to teach everyone compression now, because everything I'm involved in, I'm like, this is terribly compressed.
Important.
It's terribly compressed.
It is so important to have it. Like, it sounds so much better after you do it.
Because it can you can either destroy it or make it with it.
Sound is so fragile too, because when you screw it up at the recording, whether you're on location or what, it's not forgivable. At least it's not forgivable for me. I don't know if you guys have a different experience, but if there's a noise there, you can't get rid of that noise usually if it's like at a certain part where you need that sound,
I have gotten really good at building sounds. So like if I have a sound that's messed up, I'm like, well, this little sliver of it's not, whether it's a frequency sliver or a timing sliver, right? Just this half second or just 2K and above, whatever. And then recreate the bottom end or recreate the part before it or recreate that kind of thing. That's been, I've had so many bad audio sources that I started getting decent at just fabricating everything.
Yeah, that's what's cool.
That's where, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, you can get pretty creative with it. Like I had gotten some new gear on this one session I was doing, and I didn't realize where it was showing that it was clipping, but it was, I had the mic that was clipping kind of down low, so I didn't realize it was clipping, and then after I went back and I looked, I was like, oh shit, all these fucking hits are clipping. And I was like, wait, they can't all be clipping. And so I went through and I found like one really fucking good clip, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm doing drum replacing right now. So I took that one hit and it was just like, tab paste, tab paste, tab paste, tab paste, tab paste. Because I don't have I don't usually do drum programming. So, because I usually deal with like people actually executing it.
Yeah.
So it's like, but yeah, I mean, amazing what you can kind of just like.
Yeah, I actually just recorded I wrote and recorded a pop punk song like actually been almost a year. I can't believe it. Nick was a part of it. But it was just for a music video, so it was just for kicks basically. But the guy who was helping me record it, I can play everything, or I can play all the rock instruments, piano, guitar, drums, whatever. And so I played most of them for the song, but when it came to the drums, he was like, do you want to track yourself, or do you want to just hit each drum once and program it in? And I was like, it's gonna sound better if we program it. Fuck it. Just knowing there's no. I'm such a mediocre drummer, but I'm an insanely well versed audio engineer. So I was like, okay, let's. And I was working with another extremely well versed audio engineer
who could program it. Yeah.
So I was like, dude, between the two of us, fuck it, let's just cheat. It felt fucked up, but it was kind of fun at the same time.
No, a lot of people do programs. I really haven't. I've only did it like when I was in school, but then pretty much since then, I'm just like, I don't really want to do drum programming. And usually when I ask bands, they don't want to do it either.
It never
doesn't sound as good. No, really, it
doesn't
sound. It sounds fake for sure. I mean, especially if you're paying attention. If you're like, wait,
dude, I was just talking with a band, and they had like a nightmare session with doing this programming where like the guy didn't realize that like all the attacks, aren't the same. There's like, especially with like black metal, there's like when you're hitting the snare, you're not hitting the hit at the same velocity every time. It's like, no, you have to change the velocity of the snare hits per the pieces. So the guy just had like all the snare hits, just like the same velocity.
Just machine guns.
Like, no, dude, like it's gotta sound like we're actually playing it. And
you could even adjust the volume level to make it seem like the velocity is different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And the guy just hadn't done that. And I was like, see, that sounds like a whole nother set of work.
Yeah,
that I don't want to do, that you could have just done by just tracking it right in the first place, and playing it right. I'm just a fan of that.
Made it sound like a trap snare, like a trap.
Like, dude. Anytime I download drum sample packs, though, they usually have 6 levels of velocity per hit or whatever.
Well, exactly. But this guy just wasn't doing that, or didn't realize that, and they're like, dude,
yeah.
A little in your face.
That's kind of I don't know. I like shit that's extreme and bad at the same time. It's just fun.
Well, yeah, it's if it matches, like if that's the
true. Good point. If it matches the aesthetic,
because I love some crazy like electronic shit that's just compressed and slammed and distorted.
Yeah.
But
even
generally,
then,
like the bands I'm working with, you're trying to get a little bit more of that natural band in a room feel. So it's all about what you're tracking.
No, if you're using a traditional trap drum set, like rock drum set, you definitely want there to be way more dynamics in it than if you're making a dubstep track with samples.
Yeah,
for sure, it's not the same. All that EDM compression is like they're still doing it purposefully. Like they
are all doing it purposefully.
And it works for what it is.
Sometimes they are using some of those tools better than people, doing what I'm doing.
I 100% agree.
Because
100%.
They're hyper using it.
Yeah, they're realizing what it can do.
Well, it's like in my realm, like the shit I'm doing with like, like sidechain compression or whatever is like all like very minimal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas someone doing electronic music, they're fucking slamming that shit, and it's super because they're playing it differently. They're using the whole studio as an instrument.
Yes.
Versus playing an instrument and trying to showcase someone playing a played instrument.
Wait, what do you say? What do you mean by using the whole studio as an instrument?
Using the whole studio as an instrument.
Like,
so you're in the studio and you're using everything at your fingertips to make something sound the way you want it to sound. So you're not just playing the guitar, but you're playing the guitar and you have bells on there, or you have the synth running through. It's like you're
just clapping into the mic.
So you may only have 4 members in your band, but you're recording all this extra shit on that, but you can't necessarily do that live. You know what I mean? Because you don't have all the players. So that's saying using the studio as an instrument. And when I talk about electronic musicians doing that, is like their whole setup is they can do all of those things because their instrument is the studio, is the box, is the DAW, is all of that. So they're treating all those areas of production as part of their instrument. Whereas as a guitar player, I'm not fucking around with sidechain compression when I'm playing the guitar. I'm playing the guitar and I'm singing. But when an electronic musician's doing stuff, he's paying attention to all those little things and, where he's got them set. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
We talk about sidechain compression for a second.
At first, I'll explain it for layman's terms for people who have no idea what that is.
Whatever. Sidechain and compression is where you use one instrument to duck the levels of another one.
Yeah, to trigger the compression of another.
True, yeah, because you can do it the other way. You can have it boost the levels or whatever. But yeah, you're triggering the compression one way or another. And the most obvious form of this is in EDM, especially 4 on the floor, like bump, 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 bump music, because the kick will duck pretty much everything else on the track.
They want it to be the most powerful note at that given moment.
That and a lot of the time they actually emphasize the kind of sucking sound that comes out of compressing like a synth. So you have or like a fat bass. You have this fat bass like brr, and then when the kick comes in, it pushes the bass down quiet, and then it comes back over the beat. So it's like womp, 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 like that.
Yeah. It also helps emphasize the rhythm of the song because it forces the compressors to play those instruments musically.
Yeah, and you can set the timing of the compressor to fit the timing of the song
exactly
perfectly, and you can do really dope
I use
stuff.
it a lot to hammer in the drums because the drums are pushing in. They're impacting the guitars and the bass.
Yeah, that's I think that's the most common thing it's used for. You can also use it to duck down really. Like you can to duck down the guitars when the vocals come in, but in a way that sounds good, so that you're not automating the levels. Instead, you can do it to duck the high, like the hats or like the highs of a synth every time the hats play. You can do it to do pretty much anything. And
so it's like, and a lot of those things used to be like done invisibly, but now, like you said, with electronic, it's like done so forcibly.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes you almost understand those things a little bit better, I feel like.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And it's funny because like almost everyone who has asked me for help with electronic music, the first question is, what's sidechain compression? That's because it's just if you want to make electronic dance music, you have to. Honestly, I think if you and when I hear anything on the radio, everything on the radio has sidechain compression in it. All of it. All the rock songs. A lot of the rock songs I listen to now, I'm like, they're doing almost all the same things EDM producers are doing.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's just less bassy.
It's more subtle.
Yeah.
I know for the longest time, I had when I got out of college, I had all these skills and all these things. I was like, how do I use this to present a record? You know what I mean? It's like, it takes you a long time to actually conceptualize it and be like, oh no, I need to do this here. Like to kind of figure out where it actually works in your realm. Yeah. And you're always learning. So.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
The first person to show me sidechain compression was Soto.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because he gave me this little like MIDI controller and we were playing around with like Ableton and then when you showed me that, it seemed like a lot more things made sense. When you listen to music, like, that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Exactly. Like all of a sudden you kind of conceptualize it a then like, and you're like, oh, whoa.
Yeah, it's like, I see it now.
No, yeah. When I first learned about sidechain compression, I was like, oh my God. And then I went into Reason and then realized that Reason was doing it automatically. And I was like, okay. But
touche.
But the way they do it automatically, it's like sometimes it's helping you and sometimes it's not. Because if they're doing it and you don't know it, you might be doing other things to try to sidechain or duck stuff and you're just fucking your song up. So I was a little like, but yeah, when you open up the wires in Reason, it's whatever your kick drum is already automatically hooked up to a compressor that's hooked up to the rest of the track. So like your kick drum will automatically duck your whole track.
Automatically, the automatic engineer.
Yeah, it's crazy. And this was 10 years ago.
See, I wouldn't want that. I want to know what's happening. Right. I want to know what's happening under the hood on everything.
Agreed.
I don't want to take it all for granted.
Yeah. Well, that's why you became an engineer. You want to know what the fuck's going on. How to do it. Yeah. Super dope.
Yeah.
Anyways,
where were you?
We got a little more time.
Okay.
For sure.
Did I remember Reason with all those wires? I never got into Reason, but I remember like watching you play with it.
I used it a few times, yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it was weird how like it was wires in the program.
Yeah, how they literally just make it seem like analog equipment.
Did that help you?
I think
it was to make you not feel like it's digital. It's like to appease the analog.
Yeah.
I don't think it helped that. I think it may have helped a little bit when I did stuff in real life, but the problem was that once I translated to regular DAWs, I had no fucking clue how to use them. I felt like a terrible engineer.
Have you ever used, I'm sorry if I'm saying the wrong, I think it's called Max MSP. Have you ever heard of that program?
Yes.
And it's like, and I'm pretty sure that's...
I have not used it. I know what you're talking about.
But it's basically like a
Make
program...
your own plugins.
Yeah, you basically are making your own instruments. You're like writing
And effects.
Yeah, and effects.
all
You're
that
like
stuff.
using oscillators to play different sound waves, and then you're kind of building a virtual instrument.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But
shit is
that's
intense.
what was just when you said Ableton, I just instantly went to Max MSP.
Dude,
that was a fascinating class.
Yeah, if I was nerdy enough, I would have gotten into. I got real close a few times because there were some times where I was learning some like physics of audio things, and I was like, oh, I don't know a plugin that does that. Maybe I should just make it. But I would always find one that did it before I built up the motivation to actually build it myself. And I'd be like, okay, thank God.
Yeah, it just seems like more work than I want to necessarily do. I mean, but it was fascinating. It was definitely cool to watch it all broken down to like, oh shit, that's how virtual instruments are made.
Is that still being used?
Probably more in the electronic realm, but I'm since I got out of school, I haven't really dealt with much of that. I dealt mostly with like hardcore punk rock and
I feel like that'd be
studio
so
realm.
useful for the electronic world, like you just said. I feel like that's something people want. They want to
people
make
do.
their own
It's
shit.
advanced. There's different programs
it's really
that do
hard,
it now,
dude.
and
It's not like
I bet
it's a lot harder than just learning to mix.
it's
frankly.
like you're coding an instrument.
you're coding
well,
it
and then
without
with
the
stuff
code.
like that, then you can program it all into like a pad that you can actually play.
Yeah. If you
That's
get
cool.
that far.
If you get that far,
You can make it real simple. Like you could make something that's just like a sine wave that you have no control over, and then like a saw wave that you have no control over, and then hook that up to two buttons. That probably wouldn't take it that long. But like if you want to filter it, have pitch change, any of the normal stuff you would have in a synth at all, you're gonna sit there for a while making that stuff. Even and Max MSP is, from what I understood, because I did use it for I think just one day. I actually tried using it, maybe two, and it's basically like block coding, where they have blocks like sine wave, and it's just like a block that says sine or something, but then you have to link it with a line to like filter, and then link it to pitch. And then so everything that you want pitch to be changed has to be linked, and every little thing that is its own like line of code you have to set up and put together.
Yeah,
So
I
it's quite a
prefer
pain.
playing the guitar.
yeah, exactly.
I know. I'm a little better on stage, shaking
Yeah.
my ass and screaming into a microphone. That's a little bit more my natural homeostasis.
Yeah.
So-
Do you play
same.
black metal too, or?
I played in a black metal band called Irish for like a month till they got another bass player, because it was not really my style. It was like really aggressive, progressive black metal, like in drop A, and I like didn't even really play bass, and I was like, well, I'll play till you find someone else, but I don't even think my bass can tune to drop A. But yeah, I mainly play punk rock and hardcore, so not quite dropped as low.
Ben and I have fun with black metal sometimes.
Yeah,
we
and even when we had bands, we just dropped everything. So I had a band where I would just change the tuning every song. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I would just keep dropping it, and I dropped it down to like B once, and I was like, man, fuck it, I don't care.
Well, it's like at first the bass I set up to play with this band, I like tried to set up the intonation, and the bass wouldn't play drop A. It just.
slap around.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
wait, and so I had another what was it? MTD bass I had that I could intonate it to get it into drop A, but it still was like, it was just like maxed all the way fucking down. Like it was just slammed, and so I was like, all right.
The only band I've heard of that successfully did that is Korn, but they had 7 strings.
Yeah, and they also
so
had
they're
a
only
lot of-
dropping at a full step. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also had what?
7 string, huh? Jeez,
Yeah,
I
they had a
didn't know that.
5-string bass, 7-string guitars, maybe 8-string guitars. The whole point is they had a bigger string.
Yeah.
And then they just dropped that one full step.
And
that
like,
was
so
it.
in my newer band, Sorry Not Sorry, we actually do drop C sharp, which was very different even for me. It's not as low as like drop A.
It's just one half step, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we're down a
But just
half
drop.
step, and then
You tune the bottom.
we're
the
down
big
everything a
string.
half step in Sorry Not Sorry,
Except
and
the big
then the big string is down an extra half step, just on a
Extra
few
full
songs.
step.
But pretty much all my new bands do half step down. Yeah, I actually had to get my guitar re-intonated and actually changed my gauge strings because I was just trying to get that low end to like dig more. And at first, it's just to my ear, I was like, it's still not. It's just ever so. It's just not translating just right. And so as soon as I changed strings and intonated it, I was like, okay, there we go.
Wait, I re-intonated? What does that mean?
It's like the how far your bridge is, like up or down on your guitar, because it ultimately affects the length of the string, like this.
Yeah.
So some of the
as
notes
you
will be
play up
wrong.
the neck, the notes you have to change equally up the neck for all the strings. You know what I mean?
Where the like where the frets are lined.
That makes
Otherwise,
sense.
it'll be
Yes.
sharp or flat.
Yeah.
Once at some point, like this up here in the fretboard, it's fine. Down here, it's all flat.
Yeah.
That's what my guitar does right now.
Yeah.
Very bad.
Yeah, my guitar player for Faithless Saints, I've been trying to get him into his guitar, and he kept forgetting. And finally, we like recorded, and I was like, "There's some stuff that's just a little sour." I'm like, "God damn it, Drew, intonate your guitar, man."
Yeah.
Just like, you know, as you go up the neck, things will get a little.
Yeah. That makes sense. Damn. Anything you got excited about coming up that you're working on?
Well, now that I'm doing just the studio full time, I'm pretty much excited just to be recording all the time. I had a crazy year with Ground Score. We toured a shit ton these last 2 years. We did a month tour with Days and Days. Played some of the biggest shows I've ever played in my life.
Nice.
And so that's pretty exciting. There's a possibility of Ground Score doing a tour with Days and Days and Leftover Crack on the East Coast in February. So I'm excited to do that. As well as I'm finishing the Sorry Not Sorry record, which is about to come out. And then this winter, Ground Score will also be working on some new songs. So
Nice, man.
pretty much just recording and touring.
Yeah. How can people find you, get a hold of you, all that stuff?
On the Facebooks or the Instagram, all Irican Productions, Faithless Saints, Ground Score, and Sorry Not Sorry are all on the Facebook or have Instagrams. The websites, things I'm kind of changing right now, so I wouldn't advise you to check out the websites.
It's IRICAN.
Yeah,
Irican?
IRICAN.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Cool, man. Well, you're a cool guy. I wish you best of luck with everything you're doing. If you're a friend of Ace Troy's, of course, you're a friend of ours. So you'll have to come back sometime, man, when you're doing some other stuff. You got a new album coming out.
Yeah, I will, for sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll link all your stuff, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And thank you guys for listening. Peace
Bye.
out.